So today on Training Tips, I'm going to do a broad overview of cornering on the gravel bike. Now we'll talk about a lot of different things here, and I'll probably end up breaking a few more of them down in separate segments, but this should give you a good general idea of where to start and what type of things to look for when you're turning. So the first thing is actually body position. So if you think about riding a rigid bike like this, you don't have suspension. So any suspension that you do have is coming entirely from your arms and legs. So the biggest mistake I see people do is riding around with their legs and arms completely locked out. Now if you do hit any bumps on a gravel corner, as you pretty regularly do, you can just imagine hitting it with an extension like this is going to throw you off your line and make it way more likely that you end up on the ground. So what you should be doing instead is riding around with a bit of a natural bend both at your elbows and your knees. That way you can react to any bumps as you go around corners, and you can also react as the terrain changes underneath you. For example, if it's slippery outside, you can catch yourself and react to the tires sliding a little bit if you have that natural bend. Next part about gravel cornering that I want to talk about is line choice. So a lot of times you can go for a very traditional outside of the turn to the apex, that's the inside of the turn, to the back to the outside. That way you can make the turn as shallow as possible instead of coming in hard on the inside, forcing yourself to brake and then forcing yourself to accelerate again. However, as you can imagine, that's not always the case. We're not riding on pavement where it's a smooth surface throughout. So sometimes the best line isn't just about taking the apex, it's about looking what's at the terrain and seeing, hey, are there some potholes there? Is there some thicker or bigger rocks over there? And picking a line that looks like it's going to be the smoothest and also the most consistent. Speaking of looking at the corner, as you're turning, you should be looking at different points throughout the turn. So when I'm entering the turn, my focus is on the entrance. As I near that entrance, I'm shifting my gaze and as a result, my entire body towards the apex of the corner. And when I'm approaching that apex, I'm again turning my body and my eyes towards the exit. Kind of having your gaze one step ahead of where you want to go means that you're actually going to follow that arc smoothly. If you're only focused at where you are, or where you don't want to go, chances are you're going to end up over there. Finally, and maybe the trickiest part of cornering to master, is actually getting comfortable with your tires sliding around a little bit. You should always have your bike weighted so that your rear tire breaks free a little bit before the front tire. If the rear tire breaks free, you can catch that, you can correct it, you can put a foot out, but if the front tire goes, more often than not, you're going to end up along the ground with it. So the way to do that is actually just to keep on practicing and get to a position where, as you can see in the video, I'm actually able to slide my rear tire a little bit and have it break free. I like to do that by setting up a little course, but in a later video I'll give some more drills on how to make that happen. If you're not quite comfortable with that yet though, another method that you can do on slippery corners is actually sticking out that inside leg. It's what we call the tripod, and it's that little bit of extra security in case you do lose your wheels. You can catch yourself with that foot. So there you go, there's a bunch of tips for cornering on gravel, and like I said, stay tuned for some more videos breaking down these into a little bit more detail. Thanks for joining me.